Welcome back to an all-new episode of Hebrew Hits. Right now, here with me is Moshe Ruvain. He has 1.5 million Instagram followers. And I saw him today, and I'm like, you don't look like the type of guy that has 1.5 million Instagram followers. You're not running around with your phone and like videoing with people and taking selfies. So, first of all, welcome to the show. How are you doing today? You're listening to Hebrew Hits. I'm your host, Malia, and I'm so excited that you're tuning in to this show because that means that you want to succeed in life and you do not want to fail. Many of us go through such difficult challenges in life, and it's up to us not to fall victim to them. It's up to us to rise above it and to succeed. I sit down with people who have gone through real big struggles and show that they overcame them and are super successful today. It's what you do, it's what you have that makes a difference. Hebrew Hits is presented by TMC.
Thank God, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So what I want to know is, I see you on Instagram. Tell me a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm a bald shuva from South Florida. I grew up in Cooper City, Florida. Conservative, grew up conservative, regular, secular world type thing. And I went to college at UCF. I went to yeshiva in Morristown, the Rabbinical College of America, and also several other places, but that was like where I spent a lot of time and I got smicha and stuff. And my background as far as like business-wise and music-wise, I'm an artist. I'm signed with Create Music Group, and I am a serial entrepreneur. I've started various ventures and have been a part of different ventures as either like a chief marketing officer or a co-founder or an advisor. And I write for different places. I've written as a Forbes contributor, as an entrepreneur magazine contributor, and I've written for Huffington Post and many
Are you in
places.
Forbes 30 Under 30?
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I got selected for Forbes 30 Under 30 for business that I do, for charting, for my debut single charted in various countries throughout the world, I think 5 or 6 countries.
Oh, wow.
And that was notable for multiple countries to be interested for the 30 Under 30, and then also the fact that I do business internationally. I do it throughout different places. And my background, it was, and it's under the technology sector. So like my tech startup, the tech startups that I've been involved in, and just being a writer around startups and around the tech field.
Let's talk about Instagram for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm still, as I'm talking to you, trying to understand how you have 1.5 million followers. Not because I'm like, oh, how do you have 1.5 million followers? But because you're a real person, you're talking, you're not like a rah-rah. Like when I think of an Instagrammer, I just think of like, there's just so much happening. Like they're just action all the time and like rah-rah type of personality. You're not like that. So talk to me about, first of all, how do you feel about having such a big following, and how did you come to have such a big following on Instagram?
Yeah. So for one, I feel it's a huge bracha, it's a huge gift, it's a huge responsibility. It's a huge opportunity. That was really what drove me to the platform, is that there's a lot of opportunity as if you grow an audience, you grow a community, you could do so many things. And I from a young age I've been very ambitious in several areas of my life, like several different industries, several different aspirations. And it was always like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? I can't do 7 things and be successful at all of them. But as an influencer, as a person with an audience or whatever, you can hypothetically do it because you have an audience to work with.
Yeah.
So it's something that I was really inspired to do. As far as being a person that's more, I don't know if you'd say laid back or introverted, or I think that it's very possible to grow an audience if you're a genuine person. If you are who you are and you feel comfortable expressing that, even if it's not the more like outgoing and extroverted way of doing it, I think people more than ever love things that are real, love things that are genuine, and they'll be willing to latch on to you if you are like that.
So how are you real with your audience? Give me an example.
I just, I started Instagram, with quotes, really. I didn't, everything was, it was about spreading Torah, spreading Hasidus, making sure the world has positive ideas to work with because there's so much other things that are being sent out. And I want it to be like that light when people are scrolling throughout their day, that they see something and they're like, my whole day just changed. Or, I'm going to approach the rest of my life differently because what this quote is or whatever. And also myself, Pruvavu, there's a concept in Hasidus that it's not just physically having children, it's also when you're inspired by something, you're supposed to inspire others. You have an obligation to. And I've been very inspired over my Baal Tshuva experience, and I felt an enormous obligation to make sure other people were inspired through my journey. So social media just happened to be like, wow, that's 10. I do this, that was already something I did in person when I meet people, etc. To be able to do it on a platform that spreads to thousands, maybe millions, was like, that was exciting for me.
So hearing you talk about inspiration and inspiring others, it's when I post, right? I'm a LinkedIn, I'm not Instagram, but when I find something that inspires me, that is when I take out my camera and I say, I'm going to create a video because I'm passionate about it. I feel inspired and I know that I want to inspire others. So I agree with what you're saying. It really spreads when you're doing inspiration. Now, tell me, what made you want to become a Baal Tshuva?
Yeah, I don't think it was like, it's interesting because my process was never like, I never had a goal to be Baal Tshuva. I was like, people always say to me, like, I'm like the least, there's a certain type of thing called Baal Tshuva syndrome, like the least Baal Tshuva syndrome type person, like, because I've never felt this need to like try to fit in or like try to be like a certain thing or act like I was never a Baal Tshuva, which is a common thing, unfortunately. Because things are a little bit like the group, you want to be part of the group. I came to this being not part of the group, so any part where if there's a place where I fall as like, I guess an individual versus just fitting in every way, it's more natural to me actually. And when I fit in too much, I actually start questioning myself.
That's so interesting.
I've had just so many things in life that part of my experience that's led me to be Baal Tshuva is realizing that being part of the klal could also not always lead you in the best directions.
Not being part of the what?
The general, places that you find yourself, the general groups that you find yourself in. Because obviously, you're not supposed to separate yourself from the community in any way, obviously. But, not everything that everyone's doing all the time is always going to be conducive for the best result for you in life. And it's not always going to lead you to being the best version of you. It's not always going to lead you to being your own unique person. And a lot of times I see it hinders that. Sometimes it causes people to do things, even Averas, God forbid, because we're all religious here, to say if we all speak Lashon Hara or like in this one group, it's all normal for us. Or if we all do this in this one group, those are things like if you're following a path of God, I just try to.
So what led you though to want to become religious? Like what was the?
So when I was younger, and it's not like a direct correlation. Like it's kind of like waves of how I reached this. When I was like 16, I had a near-death experience. And it was like, there's no religious insinuation to it for me. It was a very spiritual experience for me at that point. That's what I didn't attach religion to it. I attached my relationship with God to it. Because I just realized that wow, this thing's serious. Like you're not just like here. You just do the things that you do.
Wow. So tell me about that experience.
Which parts?
Tell me from the beginning, and then we'll walk through it. What happened?
What happened?
Yeah.
I wasn't like a crazy person when I was a teenager. I was always a good kid. I was normal, just like every other teenager, doing the same teenager things that all teenagers do. However, I was also very part of the social scene, and that leads you not always in the positive directions in some regards, and also which parts of those social scenes you associate with. So it was like towards the end of my junior year that we left school early and someone decided to have a party.
Oh
It was like
gosh.
one of those days of school that nothing's really happening.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. And everyone was having that experience throughout the class. I think maybe there was recently a storm or something. Maybe there was a hurricane a few days before and like it threw everything off.
Okay.
I don't remember. But what I do remember is everyone just skipped like in the middle of class, like leaving and going to my friend's house, and we were having a party, like a normal party, And I don't know how detailed this should be, but basically, basically,
You're making me curious. It's just like
I mean, basically, like we were involved in different things. Like I was not a drug person. I did once in a while, like I would smoke weed just because my friends had it, and we would be. Usually, it had something to do with music because we were doing music in in our circle together, and that was part of the environment. So it would be passed to you, and that was just at some point I went from like, oh, I'll never touch that to like, all right, no, that's
a little
not,
bit.
yeah, a little bit, except, but yeah, so, uh, but also sometimes they would add a little bit more extreme elements to it.
So you're at this party, and tell me what happens.
So I'm at the party, and we were playing, at this point that we left off of, we were playing beer pong, and one of my friends thought it was funny. I think this is what my theory is because because of how things played out. I think one of my friends, they're jokesters. They like, would pour something in a drink. They're just messing around. So I think he poured it was like something that's like kind of, it's like a medicinal thing, but it could be used as a drug in a sense, in the thing, thinking that it would be funny. And I drank it.
Oh my God.
And I knew that, what did I just drink? I was like, that was nothing I've ever, I knew that there's something strange. I never really got like clarity if that was really what happened, but I think that's why this happened more, because nothing I did was that intense to have caused like the experience that I had after.
You didn't ask him to put this in your drink?
No.
Okay.
We were playing beer pong.
Yeah.
Like I just drank one of the cups, and I was just like, what did I just drink? So I think that's my theory of what happened, because nothing else really makes sense. I didn't really do anything too crazy. I did drink, I was at a party, like drinking, like like the usual party. And I
What happened next after that?
So I just started. I started feeling like I was like losing like my senses to a sense. Like I couldn't like really control myself, and I don't really know how to describe it. And I saw my friends like around me like cracking up because they see me like, because this is how they are, like they were just like, it's like they, I don't know, they didn't take anything really that seriously. So they thought it was like a whole joke, and I'm like feeling this experience that like, it became something. I was like, oh my God, like what's happening to me?
Yeah.
And like, you kind of just see that you're in an environment that like these activities are like part of the environment, and the people around you are like, joking about it while it's happening to you. It's like kind of pretty intense experience.
And what were you feeling? What was happening to you? What did you think was happening to you?
Yeah, so at some point I found myself in another room, and I was like looking up, and I just didn't know exactly what was happening, but I felt something extremely intense, and I started seeing somewhere, it felt like a vision of some sort. Like God was like showing me like, this is the reality of if you were to pass away today. Like,
so what was that? What did you see?
it was like a newspaper of like 16-year-old, passes away at a house party during.
And your eyes were open. You were standing. You were awake. You were sleeping. You were passed out.
Like eyes open, but like not like capable of like moving. It felt like.
And you're able to see these visions that God was.
Yeah, I don't even know if this was a vision or anything. If you're doing something that's not the normal, whatever you're seeing, you don't know if it's real or it was kind of like I never really know, but at the same time, it's like a certain feeling like you do kind of know. You do kind of think that that's what it was, because the thing that was going on in that vision, so to speak, was so like medaic to like a certain message that was being brought to me, that it was very clear to me that it was like something that. So at some point of it, it was like showing me all these things would happen.
What was it? What's it?
Like this vision of some sort. I don't even know how to describe it.
It was a voice, or
it wasn't a voice. It was more like a visual, like that was going on in my head.
So besides the newspaper, what did you see?
I saw, like my mom crying. I saw like different. I saw like brought me into this like different reality of the world, where you see like a different structure of it, where you see like the people that I was looking up to were like under the ground, so to speak. Like they were like, I guess you'd say in Kabbalistic terms, like entrenched in klipa of the world, and that you're like following people that every typical teenager is doing these things and interested in these people and whatever, but they're not the best influences on you, and you see like that you're at like the bottom of it, under this whole soul structure, and I realize now, like, it's like kind of like it seems like a message like that. When you are influenced by certain people, you act this in a certain way. It's like if you were to look up to, I don't know how to put it. You putting yourself below those things. And
you were, so just to understand, because it was your vision. It's hard for me. It's hard for listeners to understand this. You were like soared above, like soared. Like you were like flown above this underground thing.
No, it was like it was showing me that I was like, because I was entrenched of being like in this culture, that I was at the bottom of it, because I was one of the. I was a follower of it.
And you're able to see people crying that like basically you passed away. Were you able to see your funeral? Like,
no, I didn't see anything like that. It was more like, it was kind of like, it just seemed like God was showing me like an option. Like you could be at the drech of the world, like you could be the lowest of the low.
Wow.
Or you could be like floating above in the heavens. Like you could be doing good things and like leave that.
So tell me what the good things were that God showed you.
It wasn't really anything specific. It was I just saw like beneath the ground and clouds above the ground, in the skies, and like that. It was more like a visual, it seemed like it was expressing a choice.
So in this experience, right, you're here, and did you make a choice while you're in this stage?
Yeah.
And then
so
you woke
at some point, that experience was showing me like, so this is like the end, basically. Like this is like again, this could have just been a bad trip, as far as I know. I'll never know, probably. Like, how would I ever know? Because people have bad trips all the time that like have crazy things happening during them, and they freak out, and whatever happens, because they shouldn't be involved in that. Yeah, it was basically like showing me like this is like the end. Like you have like only so much time left, like 10-second type thing, like to choose your life, basically. And I was like, no, I have to live. I have to have a purposeful life. I can't just have been. Part of this experience was showing me that like all the things that you were doing, all the fun and etc. that that the typical people are doing, but you're doing it at extreme level. Maybe it's fleeting, and you're going down a bad path, and it's just gonna lead you to you don't take these things anywhere. They just
that's incredible. They actually had that visual, because so many people, they stay where they are in life for so long, because they don't realize what kind of life they can have, and that they should be leading. So it's really incredible they actually got that visual. So now tell me what happened when you woke up, and like, did you go to your friends and just leave, like that process? Yeah. And then we're gonna.
I mean, it gets kind of like, I don't know, maybe disgusting, but I had like this thrust of like, I have to have a purposeful life. I have to be here for a reason. I have to do something meaningful in the world. I have to be a person that lived their purpose. And suddenly I just felt like I gained consciousness, like re-consciousness of my body and my everything. I got up, a little. At some point, I like got up a little bit, walked it a little, and I kind of like fell like throwing up all over the ground. And one of my friends took me to the bathroom, and they were all like crowding around the bathroom, like peering in, like, what's going on?
Like, look what we put in history.
I don't know. Again, even if there was one of my friends that would do it, because of how serious it was, and he even told me, like, he literally thought I was going to die that day. I don't think he would admit it. The person that I would think that would do something jokingly like that, and that would be a joke for them. Like, these friends are kind of like a bit, the person that does that, he jokes around. Sometimes it could be something that is a little bit more serious than you wanted.
Seems like you're still friends with them until today.
I mean, I don't speak to them, but I always have like a bond with these people that like, I always feel a friendship from them, but I haven't spoken to them in years probably.
So what happened after the bathroom?
So I'm throwing up, and and then eventually one of my friends, who was more of like I don't know, he was not so much a part of this. He just like came and he just like saw what was going on, started like getting me food, getting me different things, and at some point, I was getting some strength back, and I made the choice. I was like not so far from home.
Okay.
So I made the choice like, I think I'm okay. I think I'm gonna go home. So I drove, actually, like going like 5 miles an hour. I drove home, and at some point, I don't know if it was that immediate, but I think I like waited till I had like felt like I was composure, and I like laid in the shower for like 3 hours, like just like not sure what just happened, and I went and slept, and I woke up, and life continues. You have school the next day. You're around your family, but you can't tell them anything.
Why can't you?
Why would you? I mean, my parents would never.
Why can't you? This is a literal like massive thing that just occurred in your life.
In hindsight, it's a massive positive thing. At the time, it was a massive negative thing.
Why was it negative?
From my perspective, it was that. Where was I holding in life? There wasn't like, there's no sign that what just happened was positive, and I was very confused about it, and I didn't really fully understand what just happened. So, but one thing that was certain was that like I was changing my life.
And how were you changing your life? In what way? Did you find your purpose?
Yeah, so I guess like the things that I understood, when you're entrenched in the secular world, your understanding of like good and bad is like very, I guess you'd say maybe childish or exterior. Sometimes, not everyone. I'm just saying like, when you go into learning Torah, you like see all these different levels of these things on a much higher plane. There's like way more to it than just like not partying or not doing this or not like those. But those are very essential things if you're out in the world, and those are things that you're involved in. So those are things that I wanted to do. I wanted to, not be partying. I wanted to care about the things that are important in my life and not let things slide. Wow. And I wanted to live a purposeful life and figure out. Also, it brought me closer to God. That it happened. That I started praying every day at some point.
You knew you were Jewish, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
You knew you were Jewish. So how long did it take from when this happened to when you became fully observant?
It was a long process. There was nothing like connected with Judaism from my perspective at that point. It was just like, I believe
it was
in
more
God.
like just purpose. You wanted to find purpose.
Yeah, it was just like I'm as a person in the world, I know that I have a purpose. I know there's a God. Yeah. I know I need to do things. I know I need to live a different lifestyle. I know that if I continue like that, it's not going to be like positive, especially like high school, college. These are transformative years. If you are just completely not in your element because you're so engrossed in these other things, some people I've seen, it doesn't lead them in a good path long term, because they're so developmental aspects of it.
Have you found your purpose now? Do you feel that you're living your purpose?
To a large extent, like from where I was to today is like mountains and leaps away.
Yeah.
Like,
and what do your friends say about that?
I don't know if I talked to them about this because again, also part of my transformation as a person was also trying to associate differently with other people, and also I think at some point, also when you go to college, you change your people you're around,
right?
Because they don't go to the same school as you. There's this and that, and even if the people that you do, it's not necessarily that you're going to associate with them so much.
You feel like your environment, like it really has helped you. Like when you're in one environment, you could be one way, and now that you're in a better environment for yourself to fulfill your purpose, it's helping you fulfill your purpose.
So I think for a person in general, it's a very essential thing, because what do people do, especially when you're young? What you do when you're young is what people around you are doing. Mm-hmm. You're around people, and if you're not, you're just the one that's actively not involved, and you're in the corner of it. Yeah.
Which is what we started the interview with. What you were saying, you don't like to be really a part, like just like everybody else. Obviously, you want to stay within the community.
Yeah.
But once you feel like you're like meshing with everybody, you like to step away.
I had a really cool dream once when I was in college, because at the same time when I was in college, there's also another group of people that I got associated with. Like, there's all progression, and I didn't necessarily, they weren't horrible people at all. Like, I just was like, I started becoming more and more involved in my Yiddishkeit throughout college, and these people were still college students, enjoying college, and I had this one dream that you're just walking around with your friends, and then God takes the veil off, and you're like at the end of a plank, kind of like you when you're in an environment, you're just enjoying it, you're part of it. You're not thinking so much about decisions, because it's done as a group, and when you do things as a group, well, people don't really see anything wrong with anything that's been done.
It's like the cheerleader effect, basically.
Yeah. So, I felt like it was maybe like part of this, one of the signs that God was like hinting to me, like not to be involved in this so much, and like.
Yeah. And how do you feel about that today, with where you're at?
I think that's huge, because that's where I started getting more and more involved in my Yiddishkeit. And if I was involved with those people more, I would not be from, probably. They weren't, most of them weren't Jewish even. I had like one Jewish friend out of all of them.
Wow. So that's amazing. That really, really is. I have two more questions for you before we come to a close. How has Instagram affected your life? I'm trying to ask you, has it affected your life in a way, because I know that you already said that you like inspiring people through the quotes. Yeah. But how else has it impacted your life? Because you did grow such a big following. Do you feel like you have to be careful with what you post? Or do you want to make movements to help people who are from the secular world? Like, do you want to be makar of people through your Instagram because you have such a big following?
So, in many ways, it's affected my life. Part of the concept behind my willingness and wanting to spread this is always, and also I don't always think about it in those terms, like the word makar or anything. Like, I just think that if you inspire people, they'll find a better, whatever their pathway they're on, it'll improve, in some way, So I just really believe that any positive thing that I bring across, that if it hits someone and they are inspired in some way, then that's part of my shlokas,
Wow.
That as far as it's affected my life, the thing with social media is you have pockets of people, especially me, the pockets of people are all over, even the amount of Jews that are out of that audience, it's a sliver of that. So the amount of people that know you, it's always hit or miss. Either someone really knows you or someone really doesn't know you. And that's because if you have a couple million, that's still a sliver of 7 billion.
Still, but it's come on, it's a
Yeah.
huge following. So you
It's
congratulate you.
massive. It's
massive, especially in the
But
Jewish community.
I'm saying the way that it affects your day-to-day life. I don't
not so much,
assume. I don't assume that people always know me.
I think
because
specifically with you, the reason it doesn't affect you as much is because you're not the Instagram person that I see you right now. Like you're, as I said in the beginning of the interview, you're not somebody just walking around with their phone trying to speak to create
I'm
content.
not just trying to be an influencer.
Right. What I'm seeing in the world is the people that are on Instagram all the time, they are talking to people for content, not to have a real conversation.
Yeah.
So what I see with you is you don't really care about that. Like you are focused on just being real.
Yeah.
The last question I have for you before this interview is over is I want to go back to a point that I asked you a question and then I asked you a different question.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get an answer. I know you do music, so it pertains to music. What is your purpose? Is it music, or if it's not, then what is your purpose? And do you feel that you are living your purpose? I really want to. That is a question I really want you to answer. Yeah.
From a Jewish perspective, your purpose is different every moment. Right now, my purpose is to speak to you, like about this conversation. That's all I'm supposed to be doing. Tomorrow morning I have to wrap the film at a specific time. That's my purpose at that moment. So as far as purpose, I think usually, as far as finding it, we get confused and think it always has to be these grandiose things, and it's really every moment, what am I supposed to be doing right now?
Wow.
And if you do the right things, you change the world.
I love what you're saying. I love what you're saying because you're not saying, oh, I'm living my purpose, this is what I have to do. You're saying you make the right decisions every little part of the day. You're making the right decisions every part of the day, which could be 50 decisions, 100 decisions, but you're making the right decisions, which is an incredible thing.
Yeah, there's a saying. I thought of this, I wrote something before with, I don't know, Rabbi Simon Jacobson. I was in like a mentor-protege thing with him, and I had to write something on like Torah and the world. And I talked about how like even science says that there's opinions that all of the world's connected. And I heard recently, probably like a year or two ago, the Rebbe saying, for bringing that, if a person blows air at one side of the world, he impacts something on the other side. That like, if you make the right choice in this moment of how you're supposed to be living, that has ripples effects that you'll never see, because the entire world is connected.
Wow.
So I think that's one aspect of it. The other aspect, as far as like the grandiose things, that's part of why I've been so driven to try to achieve a lot of things and try to make progress on my dreams and not just take them for granted, and not just leave things up for chance. And that's why I wanted to be a creative. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to do different things because it gives you a certain freedom to explore that more heavily than if you're in an office all day.
Yeah.
So, like we're 9 to 5, I mean. So, like, I think on that end and that front, it's been, huge. I mean, anything that notable that throughout the conference that's been said or that I've been able to do, that's all a thrust from this whole process of like, I need to achieve something in this world. I need to make sure that whatever I'm doing, I do it really well. I need to make sure that I do things at a high level, and that the things that I'm ambitious about, that I actually pursue them. And so those things, yes, I do think I'm way more entrenched in my purpose. Are there areas that need to be improved? Absolutely. Are there things that I don't feel have panned out 100% exactly the way I want them to yet, or in the past? Yes, of course. But I think that's the journey of like on the macro scale. Because as a yid, you have the 613 mitzvahs. As a female, you have all the mitzvahs that a female has, and you have to do that is your purpose. But within that, you have an individual purpose. And as far as that pratius aspect of it, I think that I've been able to make a lot of progress, and I hope that things pan out the way that they're looking to be.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much. You really have an incredible story from where you came from and where you are now. It's amazing, like, just hearing that you had this visual, and you're able to see that you're at the lowest low, and then you see the sky and you're like, I need to change my life. Some people would not have changed their life, and you did, and you're really living with purpose. So thank you so much for being here on
Thanks for having
Hebrew
me.
Hits. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Tzlacha with Hebrew Hits. It's
Thank
a
you
great
so
idea.
much. Thank you. I appreciate that. You can go subscribe to Hebrew Hits Radio on YouTube. And we are available on Instagram and Facebook at Hebrew_Hits. Please reach out with any comments you have to my LinkedIn at Malia Feivelson. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you. Have a great day.
All right.